Welcome to Behind the Basket, everyone. We're getting back on track every Thursday for your weekly dose of NBA basketball. This should be the last slow day for Behind the Basket as things start to pick up in the shortened off season. We now know that free agency is going to be starting on November 20th, I believe is the date. So we'll have some signings that we'll be able to talk about. As that happens, a lot of teams are preparing for the draft. So some draft news is coming out. And there's also a lot of trade rumors, which we are going to discuss today. But let's go ahead and kick things off, Elizabeth, with the collective bargaining agreement that we kind of touched on a little bit last week without doing any proper research. And we've come a little more prepared for that this evening.
So they ended up coming to an agreement about everything, and the first thing was that the free agency does start Friday, November 20th, I think at 6 p.m. I'm not sure Eastern, Western, what coast or anything, but the season's going to begin on December 22nd. It's going to be a 72-game season, and the salary cap, the luxury tax, they're going to remain the same. But I did read something earlier that says so, if they don't bring in as much revenue, the players' salaries are going to decrease. And they came up with a bunch of rules about how much it could decrease per season. I think it can't go over 10% of their salary per season, or not more than 20, something like that. Mm-hmm. And if it does, let me read it because I don't want to say it wrong. Hold on 1 second. Sorry. Okay, says the NBA will reduce the luxury tax bill for the teams at the end of the 2021 season by the percentage amount that the league's basketball-related income declines from initial projections. So I guess it'll be cheaper depending on how much money they lose at the end of the season.
Right.
That's all I got on that.
It sounds kind of like a league insurance policy where, if things go south with this NBA season, that they have a way of having some sort of revenue. I guess you wouldn't call it a revenue, but the league needs money to run and it needs money to prosper. And unfortunately, that means the players might take a little bit of a hit if things go south.
Yes, that's what it's looking like. 1 second. Give me 1 second. Sorry.
So some interesting stuff with the next NBA season. It's a little bit of a surprise to me that they're keeping the salary cap and luxury tax information the same, just because I imagine revenue projections are a lot lower, but the league must seem optimistic with what they're able to do. There were some players that didn't want the 72-game season. They wanted, I believe it was like a 60-game season that started after Christmas. Maybe even in January might have been the proposed date, but
yeah. They wanted January 18th.
January, yeah, well after Christmas. Mm-hmm. But doing that would have cost the players a lot of money because their salary is where a lot of the cuts are coming from. So now we're going with December. The other thing I think is interesting is we've already had one team say that for the near future, they're not allowing fans into their stadium. That's the Los Angeles Lakers.
Wow, that's not the team that I would have expected to say that.
Yeah, well, they're the first team I've seen so far. We'll see who else does. What do you got, Jake?
Wouldn't that also mean that the Clippers aren't allowing people into their stadium?
Probably. Based off of location.
Logic. It's the same stadium. So
I mean,
if they're allow it, then what the hell good does it do if the Clippers are going to do it?
Maybe it's a statement. It is LeBron James' team, so you got to take every action as some kind of statement.
It will be funny, though, if the Clippers do get to play with fans. Okay, speaking of COVID stuff, though, did you know that the New York Knicks had to shut down their facility?
I did not.
Yes. So I guess a couple of the people that work in the facility, it wasn't any of the players or anything, but they contracted it. So, I mean, that really just has me thinking about next season. And honestly, if not going to a Rockets game means that I get to watch a full season without anything being shut down or canceled, then I'm okay with it. I'll watch on TV this year. I just
Yeah,
wanna-
we'll see. I imagine more teams might follow. It's a toss-up because the more revenue the teams make, the better they're able to hold on to player salaries. Players will be happier playing in front of fans, I'm sure. You want to be able to take care of all of the employees there. Of course, the owners want to make money, but at the same time, is it worth potentially canceling the season again or postponing? And I don't think it is, but we'll see, because I also think we need sports now more than ever. The NFL, as far as I know, is being somewhat successful by allowing fans into the stadium. I've seen a post about requiring masks at all NBA games. They're going to try to keep people apart, and they're allowing NBA teams to modify their arenas with plexiglass for the benches.
Nothing is going well for the NFL.
All right. Well, I stand corrected. I gave
Every single team has had at least one positive case that has shut down the facility for the day by now.
All right, then let's not go to any basketball games, anyone.
That's why
I
Adam's
kn-
better.
I knew baseball wasn't doing well. I thought I gave football the benefit of the doubt, but that just goes to show that my sport is basketball. This is all I know.
Basketball's better, anyways. I don't know. Jake heard that.
All right.
Oh, here it comes.
What was that?
I said basketball's better.
Really? The
It's more
overpaid
fast-paced.
flop job guys?
Huh?
The overpaid flop job guys? Oh, specifically James Harden?
That's soccer you're talking about. Those are the overpaid flop job guys.
And now they're talking about James Harden coming to Boston. How about no? How about no?
Ooh, I haven't heard that one. That's
So I heard today Jaylen Brown and the 14th overall draft pick, among other pieces that don't matter, for James Harden is the initial offer.
I don't like that trade.
Not going anywhere.
Neither do I. If you're going to trade James Harden, you have to get somebody like Ben Simmons back.
James Harden is
Well, not only that, I don't like that for the Celtics. If you're going to be trading for James Harden, you got to get rid of Kemba. Those two are not going to play well together. And Jaylen Brown, I see as a very valuable piece for the future. He's young. He's a great defender already. He probably wouldn't have been an all-star, or he would have been, if he wasn't just a hair below Tatum. And I think they're closer than people realize.
There were 3 trades talked about today, 2 of them being current Houston Rocket players, because they're both former MVPs. The Harden trade I just told you, Russell Westbrook for Kemba Walker straight up, which makes 0 sense to me. I wouldn't do that. I like Westbrook more than I like Walker, so I'm talking on the Houston end. That makes no sense to me. And the third one is Gordon Hayward in the 14th overall pick for Miles Turner.
Okay, that is the one that I have seen, which I don't mind. I know Boston's really good about acquiring and retaining draft picks, so I don't hesitate.
We have no more space on our main bench for these new 4 draft picks we have.
Exactly. You got that. Hayward wants out. He's making a huge contract. He's making a lot of money on a huge contract. And Miles Turner is, I believe, an underrated center, which fills a much-needed position for Boston. If I'm the general manager there, I'd make that trade in a heartbeat.
Absolutely. I would even so much so put 2 of those draft picks into any of these trades, just because we have no room for any of them.
Right. And you make a good point. If you don't have and I'm not sure how the 2-way contract thing goes, because some of those draft picks will probably end up playing the entire season in the G League. Taco Fall.
We had 17 draft picks in the last 4 years, and 10 of them are still in Europe.
All right, trade some of them. But you make a good point where I think that they're probably going to make more than one trade. I would love to see the Miles Turner trade happen. I really like the Indiana team, and Miles Turner and Domantas Sabonis don't really gel well together on the court. Sabonis was an all-star this season with Turner out with an injury. So I think that really helps both sides, where the Celtics get a big man who can help them with interior defense and rebounding. And then the Pacers, they can let Sabonis do his thing in the paint. and they've got another capable wing. I don't know how he fits with TJ Warren, but if a healthy Gordon Hayward is better than a TJ Warren that's not playing in the NBA bubble.
Right. I just want to be clear though, Harden's not going anywhere. Like,
Knock on wood.
he's not
I don't know
going.
about that.
I know about that.
It sounds like Houston wants to completely reset, not just a half reset trading Westbrook. It's sounding from our media market that we are in Boston. It sounds like it's a full reset down there. New ownership, new coach. They want to just clean house because clearly Harden's not going to win a championship.
Okay, but the new coach, Coach Silas, he this is his first head coaching position, and he specifically presented an offense with Westbrook and Harden. This was before Westbrook demanded a trade, but that's
I love these conversations.
I've got two little bits about that. The first being the coach doesn't always know what's going on in the front office.
Okay.
So he's doing his job, and I think he's already doing it well, because from what I've seen about the offense he wants to create on paper, it looks like an improvement already over D'Antoni's system. The second thing, and we were going to get to this a little bit later, and I'll just throw in a little bit. I thought I had the thing open because I don't remember his name. The Thunder hired a new head coach.
Oh, he's got a crazy name. I'm gonna mess it up.
Yeah.
Mark Daignault. Diagonalt.
Something like that. So reading up on some stuff about the Thunder. There's been some trade rumors about Chris Paul, which we will analyze as well.
Is it as simple as it seems, Daniel?
I'll have to hear it. I've only been reading it. But so there's been talk about the Thunder trading Chris Paul, which would further accelerate them into their rebuild process. And here's what they're talking about with the new coach. This guy, he was the head coach of their G League team, the Blue, for 5 seasons. He got them 3 division titles. He made the playoffs 4 out of the 5 years in the G League. So he's a young coach. He's got some experience. He does not cost them anything. They're not picking up a Doc Rivers or Mike D'Antoni that's going to cost them millions of dollars because of their pedigree, because they have to compete with other teams. They're picking up a guy who little to no other teams were looking at. Silas might be the same thing. The Rockets could be like, all right, we're going to pay Silas basically a minimum coaching salary as we experiment with a complete overhaul with our team. The Thunder getting a new coach, it doesn't matter if the team is doing terrible, they're in a rebuild. If he does amazing, they keep him for a much lower salary. If they end up building a great team and their new coach doesn't pan out, then they pay top dollar to get one of the more experienced playoff-headed coaches. So that's what I think might be part of the reason they picked up Silas in Houston and not one of the more well-known guys right now.
So there's a lot of drama with Houston though right now. And so, I mean, I can understand where the idea of they're blowing everything up is, but also I want to know who's spilling all the tea, because the past couple of years, there's been a little bit of drama to come out of the locker room here and there.
It has to be Harden.
It's not hard. Oh my God.
He is the second softest player in the league.
Who's first?
LeBron.
Okay, I just wanted clarification.
He's first, but Harden is not second. No. Okay, but look, no. So somebody came out and said that Austin Rivers at some point last season cussed out Mike D'Antoni. I don't know why. It doesn't say, I don't know the full story behind it, but someone spread that story. Then someone else said that PJ Tucker is irate. Those were the words they used about his contract and how they put his contract on hold. So there's those issues. Westbrook, of course, he requested it or demanded a trade is how some people worded it. He wants a cultural change in Houston. That was the wording that was used. But to me, that's Tillman. That's what he wants changed. I don't think it has anything to do with Harden. And Harden said that he is committed to Houston. He's staying in Houston. And he tweeted Westbrook a really sweet birthday tweet today. So I think that they're good. I don't think it's Harden.
A birthday tweet makes you think that these two like each other?
Okay, first of all, they've been friends since they were kids. They've been playing together since they were like 10 years old.
The entire report is around Westbrook not wanting to play with Harden.
No, it's that he wants a cultural change. Specifically, that is what it said. And then one tweet came out that said Westbrook doesn't want to play with Harden. But did it come from Shams or Woj or however you say his name? It didn't come from the main guy.
I'm going to have to side with Elizabeth on this one because Harden and Westbrook are very good friends. They have been for a long time. And we've talked about things with the ownership. You know, Morey's out kind of inexplicably. He's now in Philadelphia, so maybe you should become a Sixers fan this season, Elizabeth. Just follow the Morey hype train.
No.
And my other reservation is that the media will take a story and run with it. Sometimes they're right. So like we see trade rumors and free agency rumors all the time. A lot of them don't pan out because reporters will take one little sentence and then turn it into this clickbait dumpster fire so that everyone floods their website. Hey guys, always good to see you guys putting in the work. I didn't read that correctly, but thank you. So I don't buy all the headlines I read. I do like to look into some of the trade rumors that have some direct quotes or like some actual valid reasoning behind them. But for now, I have a hard time believing Harden is the biggest problem for Westbrook wanting to leave.
And
my biggest issues with trade reports is the fan-made trade reports where it's, I'm going to trade James Harden for somebody like Terry Rozier. Well, that's not going to happen, and you're just stupid. Now, you want to tell me Jaylen Brown, let's make Gordon Hayward a part of that deal. It's something that actually builds the deal to make it seem logistical. Then I'll believe James Harden is going to Boston in a potential trade. But that's what it really takes for me to say there's any merit. Because if you see the reports and there are actual trades that could happen, there's a good chance that it's real. And if you see the trade and it's some nobody for this big Giannis for Tyler Hero straight up, that's not going to happen. But you put Giannis, Tyler Hero, a first-round pick, and 3 random pieces, that's probably going to happen.
I don't think that they would possibly trade away their franchise star for anybody else in the league. I don't see the Rockets. He's got 2 more years on his contract. I don't think they'd do it.
Because other teams haven't traded away their franchise star before.
I don't think they'd do it, Jake.
Well, other teams have also really lost out on trades, giving away their franchise star.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, we don't need to talk about the Timberwolves right now.
Yeah, the Timberwolves should move cities. That's all I'm going to say.
Send them to Seattle.
Put them to Seattle, put them to Kansas City, put them anywhere but Minnesota.
I heard somewhere that Devin Booker wanted out. Do you know if that's a true rumor? Have you heard that?
So I may have seen it and totally forgot because he might be having a change of heart because the one trade rumor that seems to actually be a minute right now that Terry Rozier is better than Harden. He will. That's the issue.
I am not that crazy.
I guess Terry Rozier was in Boston, so you've got a little bit more of a...
Terry Rozier was god-awful. I want you to know that I have picked up my basketball knowledge since we started this show immensely.
I can tell.
Good stuff.
Numero uno, Terry Rozier was god-awful. And he still is god-awful over in Charlotte.
He had one good playoff run that got him a bag in Charlotte that he shouldn't have gotten. But the trade rumor that's actually looking like it might be legit in my mind, because it's been reported on by some more valid sources, is a Chris Paul to the Phoenix Suns trade. which isn't a team that I really thought about. Because when we think about Chris Paul, we're like, oh, the Lakers want him. Oh, maybe he goes and plays with other, big stars like that. But the Phoenix Suns, they've got some assets. They could flip Rubio, Kelly Oubre. They've got the number 10 pick that they could swap with the Thunder for their number 25 pick. And if the Suns, they went 8-0 in the bubble. If they can keep that energy with the veteran leadership of Chris Paul, and then Chris Paul take that mentorship that he's been giving to the Thunder, to Devin Booker, who has yet to make the playoffs in a very solid career so far, they could, I don't know if I'd put them in Western Conference Finals talks, but that might be a scary playoff team.
Yeah, for sure.
He was so close. If only he had pressed the N instead of the B.
So
close.
I think he did it on purpose, but I couldn't tell you why.
The B and the N are right next to each other, so I don't think that was on purpose. I think he's just bad at this.
And he's excited.
The internet isn't
He wanted to do it fast.
So, what do you think about the Chris Paul to Phoenix rumors?
Well, I heard a couple other. I heard that the Bucks had interest in him, the Clippers had interest in him, and there was mutual interest there between a trade with the Clips. So, I mean, I think that it would be really cool to see him and Booker together. But I think I would rather see him go back to the Clippers. I think that just personally, that would be cool to see him teamed up with Kawhi with a big star.
Here's why that can't happen.
Why?
Because the Thunder already took all of the assets that the Clippers have when they traded them Paul George.
Oh my God.
For that reason, I think if it's up to the Thunder, they're going to make the trade with the Suns. I think they can put together the best trade package out of those people, because all these other teams, I don't know who the Bucks would give up. I don't think the Thunder is interested in Eric Bledsoe, so you'd have to give up some of their young bench guys like DiVincenzo. He's the only one I can remember right now, which says a lot about who they have to offer. Jake, come on, man. Could I make it any more obvious? I'm glad Hunter knows me. Who are the Clippers going to give up? We're not taking Paul George back. I don't think that you trade Kawhi, and Harrell's a free agent. They don't even know if he's going to re-sign in LA. He could go to a completely different team. And so who do they give us? An aging Lou Williams, Patrick Beverly?
Hey, don't say it with that tone of voice.
Patrick Beverly is a huge downgrade from Chris Paul when we already have all of the Clippers picks for the next several years.
Patrick Beverly back.
What about Devin Booker to the Timberwolves?
See, that's why I was asking if he wanted out, because the Timberwolves, Cat and what's the other one's name?
D'Angelo Russell.
They're all good friends.
They're all besties. They're besties. So
it'll be interesting to see. I think that would depend on the Wolves. They've been kind of toying with that number 1 pick. They might be able to pry Booker away with it. But if I'm Devin Booker, and so me and my friends, we're like, what? They're 23 years old or something. They want to play with each other at some point. It technically doesn't have to be now. Booker's contract doesn't expire yet. They could set up all their contracts to expire at the same time and then try to meet up somewhere in free agency. Yeah. I think it'd be very hard to pass up an opportunity to play with Chris Paul. A Hall of Fame point guard. He has tremendous leadership. He would be an excellent. Devin Booker's been trying to play the point guard position until they got Ricky Rubio, and it did not go well. They improved greatly with Rubio. Rubio was second in the league in assists per game behind LeBron. So he plays much better with a pass-first point guard like Chris would be. And Paul can also generate his own shot. He was one of the most clutch performers in the league the entire last season. That might sway him to stay, but we'll have to see, since we won't see any trades for a little while.
Yeah. Oh God, I had something again and I lost it. Like a lot of people are saying that Westbrook, I've heard Westbrook to the Clippers, and I'm like, why would you do that? You're just going to put him right back with Paul George, unless you're planning on trading Paul George for Westbrook again. Like, I just don't see it happening. But I did hear that what it was on the Discord today, I think, that the Hornets were a rumored place for Russell Westbrook, which just seems random. If I'm being
Well, the Hornets have nothing to lose. They haven't had anything going for them ever. They haven't had anything good happen to them since Muggsy Bogues, I'm pretty sure. I wouldn't be too opposed to a Paul George, Russell Westbrook trade. They've never been traded for each other. They've been traded to each other and away from each other. And I want to say, so Clippers definitely keep Kawhi. I don't think that's the guy that you get rid of. He's more valuable. I think that Paul George would fit better alongside Harden than Westbrook would, simply because Paul George, he is an elite three-point shooter off the dribble, and he can catch and shoot, which means that he's an off-ball threat when Harden has the ball, which happens a lot. Stop disrespecting Alonzo Mourning and Larry Johnson. Larry Johnson had like 3 good years, and Mourning went to the Heat, and that's where he had all of his good stuff. Anyway, Hornets still suck. And then for the Clippers, they kind of have some point guard troubles. Patrick Beverley, I know you really like him, but Westbrook's definitely an upgrade at that position.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
PG would fit nicely on the trash. Some more Houston slander. The other thing would be...
That's not Houston slander. That's Paul George.
Well, Paul George to a Houston trade, or maybe it is Paul George slander to
Paul George,
throw him away.
Playoff Paul George.
Yeah, you might be right.
But I do remember, man, you're right about being an elite 3-point shooter. I think there was like 2 different games in recent memory where he hit a buzzer beater 3-point shot over the Rockets and won the game. I think one was like the last game of not this past season, but the season before. It was the very last game against for their season before playoffs started, and they were battling out for 4th, 5th, and whatever seed they were trying to get to, and they ended up going to 4th because Oklahoma won that game.
Yeah. People like to, I mean, it's true that Paul George has had issues in the playoffs, and that happened in his both of his seasons with the Thunder. Mm-hmm. But unfortunately, that makes people forget what an amazing season he had. Mm-hmm. Not this season, but the one before. He was in top 5 in both MVP and Defensive Player of the Year voting. He might have been like 4th in MVP and 2nd in Defensive Player of the Year, something like that. He was incredible. He was one of the best volume 3-point shooters in the league. He still has that capability. You know, he had surgeries that he's still recovering from.
Right.
And with the extended, getting booted out of the Western Conference Finals will give him some more time to rest those shoulders. He would be very deadly next to Harden, in my opinion. And I think Westbrook brings something to the table that maybe Paul George does it, because I don't know, those 2 players, you have 2 guards and 2 forwards playing together. It only makes sense to me to swap a guard for a forward so that they have a little more balance in their starting lineup.
Agreed. I did just want to say, though, I don't really care if Westbrook goes. Like, I thought about it a lot this morning, and the Rockets blew up their entire roster for him. The whole point of getting rid of Capella was to make it easier for Westbrook to drive to the basket. I mean, that was the main point behind it. And for him to spend 1 season there and then be like, nah, this isn't for me, I'm good. I'm okay with it. I don't think I'll miss him that much.
I also think if you're the front office for Houston, this is probably the highest that Westbrook's trade value is ever going to be. Because he did admittedly have a very good second half of the season. He's still all-star caliber, but I think he's just going to continue regressing as his athleticism leaves him. until he can figure out how to have his brain keep up with his body.
Mm-hmm.
So I would pursue trades for him. If you trade with the Clippers, I think Houston would have to grab Patrick Beverley, because I see no reality where Beverley and Westbrook are on a team together playing happily. The other thing about Houston, one of the rumors that I wanted to ask you about is that there's been ties to Serge Ibaka
I know.
as a free agent landing. If you trade off Westbrook and get someone like a Harden, Paul George, and Serge Ibaka lineup, to me sounds terrifying.
Serge Ibaka still in the league?
He's doing very well in the league still.
Oh yeah,
I thought he was like 55 at this point. So I guess I'm
No.
he's going. But oh crap, what was I gonna say?
Something about Ibaka.
Yeah, I don't know what I was gonna say. Sorry, it's gone.
Well, I'll give my
blame me for that one.
Yeah, that one's on you.
I'll give my 2 cents about Ibaka then. Regardless if they get Paul George or not, Serge Ibaka, that's what we call them in Oklahoma City. He brings 2 things to the table that Houston needs. He gives a shot blocking presence on the inside and rebounding. I guess that's the 2. Something that Houston doesn't need, but they also get with him, is that he can hit threes. He can stretch the floor. So they get a perfect mix of needing more of an inside presence where PJ Tucker no longer has to play center. Serge Ibaka is a capable defender at the 4 and 5 positions. And he can still slink into the corners, do some pick and pops with Harden. And that opens up things on the offensive end. And it could be very interesting. You know, with Capella, it was only pick and roll. Capella had to go to the basket. He couldn't do anything outside of the paint. Ibaka can do both. So you can really throw some teams off. Okay, is Ibaka going to roll for an easy dunk, or is he going to pop and we have to guard him out of the 3, which means Harden can then go in. I think that'd be a great pickup.
Do you know how tall he is?
No, that's something I'm really bad with, is remembering how tall players are. But he's most certainly taller than PJ Tucker.
Yeah. PJ Tucker's what, like 6'5" or something?
I think he's 6'7", which for a center, even for a power forward, is a little undersized.
Yeah, but I mean, I still say he held his own.
No, I think he is more than capable at power forward. A reminder, I think Draymond Green is also an undersized power forward who plays the center sometimes. It's just Houston was getting destroyed on the boards during the playoffs when they had to play some big lineups. You know, Anthony Davis, JaVale McGee, Dwight Howard. Those 3 are going to be staying together, I assume. They're going to eat Houston up on the glass. Serge Ibaka can't fight them all off, but he's certainly going to help.
Yeah, for sure. What did you know about Tim Duncan stepping down? I hadn't heard that yet.
Yeah, so there's not a whole lot of information, but he was in an assistant coaching role with the Spurs. He took over at least 1 game for Popovich out when he was out with for personal reasons. He won the game that he coached. They barely beat the Hornets. The Hornets suck. And there was a lot of wondering if Tim Duncan was next in line for the San Antonio Spurs coaching position. And then out of nowhere, he decides he's going to step down, which is interesting. I don't know why. Maybe coaching just isn't for him. Maybe he didn't enjoy it. Maybe he wanted to pursue something else. Sources say that he's going to continue to visit the practice facility, so he's still going to be involved with the organization. But in my mind, I'm happy with this because it paves the way for Becky Hammonds to hopefully take over the San Antonio coaching once Popovich finally retires.
Yeah, so I guess, I mean, I haven't heard anything about him this year. I heard that he had put his home on the market, and I was like, oh, maybe he's gonna actually retire, but I haven't heard anything else since then, and that was when basketball was still on. So yeah, I guess he's doing another season.
As far as we know, and for all we know, he could have just been downsizing. That's a very big house for
Yeah.
for a guy who's living alone, I believe, and spends 2/3 of his year traveling with the basketball team.
Mm-hmm. All right. So, Patrick McCall, you had a fun fact.
Oh, I just wrote this down just in case it ever came up. It was a fun fact that I saw, and it was Patrick McCaw. I think he just finished his 4th season. He won his rookie season and his second year. He was on the Golden State Warriors team when they won their Kevin Durant rings.
Mhm.
And then he was I think he was traded to Toronto where he won a ring with Kawhi.
Mhm.
So he three-peated in his first 3 years in the league.
Jeez.
He has more playoff wins than the Los Angeles Clippers do as a franchise.
That is crazy.
So
I had
not
to Google him.
not great.
You
Yeah.
you put his name, and I was like, and I read the fact, and I was like, what? Like, is this like some old guy I don't know about? So I went and I Googled him, and I was like, what? That's crazy.
Yeah, I don't think he's cracked double digits of minutes played per game yet in his career, but he's been on winning teams.
Man.
So in 16-17, he was with Golden State all year.
Mhm.
17-18, he was traded to Cleveland halfway through the year, but he still gets a ring. He was still there
Yep.
for half the year. And then obviously 18-19 with Toronto, and then last year with Toronto. So 3 out of 4 years, he's got a ring. That's accurate.
Yeah, and I mean, he can retire a happy man, but other than that, he's not doing a whole lot. We'll see. I think there's still a lot of question marks in Toronto because it sounds like they're going to lose Fred VanVleet and Serge Ibaka, and that leaves them with Siakam and an aging Kyle Lowry.
So back to the Westbrook. We have a quick comment on a team that we haven't brought up with Westbrook in the trading.
Okay. Ooh, Westbrook to the Knicks. That is another one that I saw. What kind of package? I see, I think it's Ntilikina. I probably butchered that. Knox, first round pick, and maybe Randall. So for Houston, Knicks are probably the best suitor because they have probably the best assets. They have a ton of young guys. They've got good picks because the Knicks have been garbage for a long time. And I think even though I think the Hornets had a better record, I think that the Knicks young guys are probably better and more attractive to trade for. I don't know. What do you think?
I'm sorry, I was writing something down, so I didn't forget to tell you.
Oh, you're good. I have something open on Westbrook here. The New York Knicks. So the people that people would want from the Knicks are probably RJ Barrett and Mitchell Robinson. I don't think if the Knicks have any brain cells left in the front office, they're not trading those two guys.
Like, please don't get rid of your only 2 players that
I know.
we know their name.
Mitchell Robinson broke the field goal percentage record set by Wilt Chamberlain.
Oh, wow.
So definitely not Wilt Chamberlain level. Like he
Right.
definitely took like a fifth of the shot attempts, but he's efficient. There's been a lot of footage of him working really hard on his jumper. So he has a high ceiling and he's already been doing well. And RJ Barrett just got drafted at number 3, I want to say, last season.
Yeah. Well,
So
you sure he wasn't 2?
no, number 2 was Morant.
Oh, okay. Yep. You're right.
So if I'm the Knicks, those 2 are untouchable for me this season. Ntilikina and Knox, they've shown flashes of raw talent, and they're still young and could develop. So that with picks, since Houston doesn't have any,
Mhm.
that doesn't seem too bad. The thing though is that the Rockets definitely get worse as a team. They set themselves up for a better future, but if they're in win now mode, I don't think
Right.
they make that trade.
Well, and I want to say that they were specifically quoted. Someone was saying that they are still in win now. Not a lot of teams. Knicks
Not a
can.
lot of teams can afford Westbrook, but the Knicks can. Adding Westbrook won't make them a contender, but 6 to 8 in Eastern Conference can be fun for that fan base. Don't trade Barrett and Robinson. Use them as building blocks. Exactly. If Houston wants those players, then Knicks walk, in my opinion. Yeah, that makes a lot of sense to me. The other thing for Houston, he makes a good point that the Knicks can afford Westbrook. I'd love to see another Westbrook MVP campaign where he just goes nuts as the only good player on his team. That would be so much fun.
You got to where I was going. I was going to say, do you know why the Knicks can afford Westbrook so easily?
Yeah, because they suck.
They're not paying anybody else.
Yeah. We were talking about this last season, how they've got nothing going on right now.
Yeah, they paid a ton of short-term money to a billion power forwards when they missed out on Durant and Irving. Quick point. Houston might actually, so their roster doesn't get better, but they unload a huge contract, which makes it easier to get like Ibaka and maybe another couple of free agents that give them some more depth. So that's something to think about as well.
Who has the 6th pick? I can't find it, and I'm trying to figure out who has the 6th pick for this upcoming draft.
What is so special about the 6th pick?
I can't remember what the team was, but this is what I was going to tell you earlier when I went blank. The Timberwolves are trying to acquire the 6th pick as well as the first.
Atlanta. It's Atlanta.
It is Atlanta. That's a very interesting. So they've got to have someone particular in mind with the 6th pick. At this point, you got to assume a lot of the teams have a good idea of who they're taking in the top 5 at least, maybe even 10.
So at first, so they're getting LaMelo Ball probably.
So there's the thing about this draft is there's no consensus number 1 pick like there was with Zion Williamson,
right,
like there was in some seasons past with like a LeBron James. There are several guys that could go number 1 and pan out, and people would be like, that's a great pick. So LaMelo Ball, he could go number 1. Anthony Edwards, he could go number 1. The Memphis big man, James Wiseman, he could go number 1. You can make debates about Obi Toppin or the tall European guy who I can't remember his name, but he's really good.
Well, LaMelo Ball, actually, I forgot I wrote this about him earlier. He did individual workouts today with the Warriors, the Hornets, and the Pistons. So
Warriors have the number 2 pick. Pistons have the number 7. And what was the other team?
The Warriors, Hornets.
Hornets have the number 3. So I don't know what Detroit's thinking. I don't think they're going to get LaMelo. I don't think he falls out of the top 5. Golden State and Charlotte, maybe. It's just been interesting because Minnesota and Golden State have been in a lot of rumors about trading those top 2 picks. So they could go to a lot of different places.
Mm-hmm.
The other thing is that the Oklahoma City Thunder have talked about wanting to move up in the draft and doing, quote, whatever it takes to draft LaMelo Ball.
Interesting.
So the Thunder have a ton of draft picks and Chris Paul, if someone can afford him. But that probably means they have to get it from the Wolves or the Warriors, because I think LaMelo's probably going top 2, 3 at the latest if I was a betting man. So they're going to just have to fork out a ton of picks to one of those 2 teams if they really want to get LaMelo. It'll be interesting to see if Sam Presti shoots for that.
So I just looked at 5 different mock drafts that all have Wiseman and LaMelo going 1 or 2 in any specific order. But it's those 2 as the consensus 1 and 2 with Anthony Edwards at 3.
Interesting. I've heard a lot of Anthony Edwards at 1. Personally, I'm not super high on him. He played for Georgia, which isn't known as like a powerhouse basketball college. And he was kind of their just do it all guy. He did everything, but he didn't do it super efficiently. And they were never like a great team. So like there's flashes, but I just haven't been completely sold on him yet. Wiseman is interesting because I think he definitely has one of the highest floors. Like he can contribute early, but big men in the league are just so different now. So like if you're not a stretch big, it's just interesting to find your spot in the NBA in 2020.
When is the draft? Is that the 18th? Yeah,
It's
it's November 18th.
November 18th. Oh, so that's going to be happening the day before our show, so we can do a whole bunch of draft talk. I, for some reason, thought it was in December, but now that we've mentioned that the season's starting in December, makes sense that it's not happening that late. Otherwise, I would have come more prepared for the draft.
Draft the 18th, and I believe free agency opens 2 days later.
20th.
Yep.
On the 20th.
Correct.
Right.
And then the league starts obviously December 22nd. So
Yep. And trades might actually be open. I think they open pretty shortly after the playoffs, for all I know, because the contract year runs out. All the new contracts are on the books. And I think it just kind of depends on how long you want to wait. It might open up because you can trade during the draft and you can trade picks before the draft. So some of these trade rumors, maybe people are waiting to see who they get in the draft before they trade.
That is accurate. The NBA trading does open as soon as the NBA finals are over.
There it is.
Really?
Cool.
I had no idea. So nobody's made any trades yet. That's interesting.
No, but if I think I might have written an article about this before the Russell Westbrook trade. I believe was one of the longest NBA trade droughts in the league's history.
And then that happened, and it was like craziness for a couple days.
Yeah, because it had been like months since a trade has happened, and then since the trade deadline, we haven't been spoiled like we have been in seasons past. A lot of it was because so many players changed teams. Paul George, well, I guess he was just traded, but let's see, Kawhi Leonard, LeBron James, Anthony Davis, Durant, Irving, all these free agents moving around that nobody really needed to make a whole lot of trades. And if they did, they were very minimal ones that didn't take a lot of negotiating. This year, with such a weak free agency class, we'll see if some of these bigger names get moved for a playoff championship run.
Well, yeah, it's looking like it's going to be a lot more interesting than we thought it was going to be, or at least in my little area. It's looking like it's going to, I don't know, it's either going to blow up or they're going to make some smart moves. I don't know anything about the general manager now. I don't know what kind of moves he's going to make, but I know that he was on every phone call with Daryl Morey.
Okay.
So he hopefully picked up some stuff from him, and
I imagine he did.
Knows his way around the deals and stuff, but I don't know what
doesn't mean he has the same agenda.
That's true. I don't. It's so unknown, and I hate it. But I'm still gonna be a huge Rockets fan, no matter what.
Another unknown. We talked about this before. Morey now being in Philadelphia with a different superstar duo who people don't know if they can mesh together. He's known for making moves, so Philadelphia's going to be doing something.
Yeah, I have no doubt that he gets some kind of guy that isn't being utilized on a team the way that he should be. That's just what he does. He finds Robert Covington, or the season before that, what was his name? He was one of my favorites, and I'm blanking on it right now. He had the braids. They called him the Manimal.
Gerald Green?
No.
Kenneth Faried.
Yes.
I don't think he's on a team right. Is he still on the Rockets?
No. They didn't re-sign him, and I think he's playing overseas now.
Yeah, he should definitely be on a team. He did so well for Houston. I don't know what the problem was, if it was something internally, if there was a contract dispute or whatever.
Some kind of it was really weird, actually. He went from playing every game, I think he even started some games, to not playing any minutes at all.
Faried is playing in China now.
Yeah, that's what I thought. Yeah. But just literally went from in there for at the very least 10 minutes a night to nothing. After a few games, all the fans were like, hey, what's going on with him? He was doing so good, and then they never renewed his contract, and then that was it. Same with Iman Shumpert.
Iman Shumpert. He's somewhere. I think he's on the Last I saw, he was on the Sacramento Kings.
Yeah,
I don't know
but
if he's still there.
that was the same sort of thing that happened with him too. That he was playing minutes and then just nothing.
Hmm.
It's weird how D'Antoni would do that to
Yeah.
multiple guys.
That's interesting. I wonder if there's something
Brooklyn.
going on. Say that again?
Brooklyn. That's where Shumpert is.
Oh, he is.
Where did
Interesting.
he play?
Brooklyn.
Brooklyn. Oh, I did not know that he was there.
Shumpert's been on so many teams at this point.
Yeah.
He's been in the Knicks. He was in the Cavs with LeBron.
Mm-hmm.
But there must be
okay.
something going on with Fareed. He was so good for the Nuggets. He never really reached his potential. People saw him being able to hit like a Blake Griffin ceiling, all-star status, and he never got there. So I wonder if there might have been an attitude problem or things going on behind the scenes that make it so teams don't want to pick him up anymore.
Did Blake Griffin even ever hit a Blake Griffin ceiling?
I mean, he did. He had some fantastic years for the Clippers. It's just the past like way too long. He's been hurt like always. So
is he hurt now? Does he have like a knee issue or something?
I think he played like 4 games for the Pistons or something. Let's
Yeah. I mean, it was pretty quickly in the season that he got injured and was out.
He played 18 games. That was
yeah,
like half of the season before COVID.
Yeah, well, so he played 75 games in Detroit, had an all-star season in 2019. I guess he didn't do too bad. I didn't realize he averaged a career-high 24.5 points. His field goal percentage took a dive, but he also took a career-high number of 3 attempts. But yeah, only 18 games, and he only averaged 15.5 points.
Yeah.
His numbers, they're very good. He's a super good player. It's just he's had a lot of injury issues. In 2016, he only played 35 games, 61, 58, 67, 66. He's only played 80 games or more 3 times. I don't know what Detroit's ever doing, so maybe he's a guy who gets traded, or maybe they just let his contract run out whenever that does.
Yeah, Detroit's one of those teams I don't really know much about. All I know is that they have Blake Griffin.
I don't have a lot of faith for any of the Eastern Conference teams at the bottom. Yeah. Charlotte, the Knicks, Detroit, the Cavaliers. The one team, and we talk about this almost every show, the Atlanta Hawks. I do see potential there. I think that they can do good things. But I think the Western Conference is stacked with better front offices and coaching staffs as well as players in that sense.
Yeah, for sure. I had another random fact, and I don't really know how to word it, but so the tax distribution, do you know what that is?
I do not.
Whatever it is, it's been the lowest since 2002-03 at $195,000. So I think that it has something to do with the luxury tax. Only 4 teams paid it. I don't know if I have that. Hold on, let me look. 4 teams paid for the luxury tax, and then that was what they said. After that, they said the distribution was the lowest it had been since 2002. But I'm sure it has to do with the all the profit loss and everything.
Yeah, all that. I want to learn more about the contract system and the luxury tax laws and stuff. But every time I go to read them, there's so many. And this is why the people in those front offices get paid the big bucks, because they have teams and knowledge of how all that stuff works on an intricate level. Has a lot of stuff.
I mean, it's confusing for sure. Okay, hold on. I think I'm okay. So 4 teams that are in the luxury tax. That's the Warriors, the Nets, the Celtics, and the 76ers.
I didn't realize the Celtics were in there.
They've got a lot of good players.
They do, but I guess Tatum and Brown, I guess they signed extensions, didn't they? They're just so young that I don't think of them as higher paid players, but that makes sense. Nets make sense because they signed Durant and Irving for a ton.
But I didn't.
Warriors make sense as well.
I definitely wouldn't have thought that Ben Simmons cost that much.
Well, it's. I think partially they overpaid Tobias Harris a lot, and Al Horford is also making a lot of money on top of Embiid and Simmons.
I can't find the exact article that I read, but I'm gonna have to do some more research into that and just learn. I want to learn more about that for sure.
Yeah, we'll chip away at it a little bit every week. One last news thing I have is Nate McMillan. He was recently let go as the Indiana Pacers head coach. He became their head coach in the 2016-2017 season. And he had 4 straight runs to the playoffs as the head coach. Unfortunately, 3 of those 4 playoffs were first round sweeps. And then in 2017-2018, they made it out of the first round. He's got a lot of head coaching experience. He was the head coach in Seattle, actually, in 2000 until 2005, made the playoffs twice. And then he was head coach for the Portland Trailblazers from 2005 to 2012 with 4 playoff appearances. Then he was an associate head coach after that in Indiana until he was made head coach. He's one of the bigger names left on the board. I don't know if there's any team that needs a head coach still.
I think the Thunder was the last one that we were waiting on.
Did the Pacers ever hire a new head coach?
I think they did.
Because if they didn't, I don't think any team needs a head coach right now. The Pacers are the only ones I can not remember. And they just fired Nate McMillan, so he's not going back. Right. So it's interesting. He's coming in as an assistant coach for the Hawks, which, for a guy of his standing, D'Antoni did it too. He's being an assistant coach. He's got a very good defensive mindset, which is exactly what the Hawks need. So I think that's a great pickup for them.
So these coaches all have just the worst names ever. His name is Nate Bjorken.
I don't know if we talked about that because I missed that. I don't remember that.
I would remember that name. That is a nightmare of a name. But yeah, it says I think October 20th they did. So I think everybody has coaches. And it's really interesting, like the difference between this year and last year. Last year it was all these huge moves from the players, but this year there's like 6 or 7 coaches that changed, I think, total. It's going to be crazy to see how the teams switch it up,
Yeah, and which teams are giving their coaches a second chance, D'Antoni's not getting a second chance at trying to make Harden and Westbrook work. Right. Another interesting thing to me is with the Lakers championship, I haven't really heard a lot of people giving credit to their head coach, Frank Vogel. Frank, he was the head coach before Nate McMillan for the Indiana Pacers when Paul George was probably at one of his best. That young Paul George before his first leg injury was incredible. And he took the Miami Heat to 7 games. And I do think that there was a decision that swung one of the games that maybe I misunderstood, but I kind of blame Vogel for. But, he's coaching very well, and now he's a championship coach. And he definitely showed flashes of it in Indiana. So hopefully at the end of it all, he's getting some of his respect for that championship as much as LeBron and Anthony Davis are.
For sure. Oh, we are past time today.
Yep, that's it, folks.
Next week, we're going to have so much more. It's going gonna be right after draft and the day before free agency.
Yep. So we'll talk about maybe just the lottery picks for the draft. We don't need to dig in too deep. So we'll do half lottery picks and then we'll do some free agency predictions. All right. We'll see you guys next Thursday.